Look, we bring union members to the table. Union members have a lot of different plans, and they're giving up a lot of different things in order to get them. What's important to me is that union members are treated with respect and that they are made whole in whatever transition we have.
Senator Warren, when it comes to the matter of voting rights, I know that it's become a lot harder for unions to collectively start forming PACs, and I know that there's been a Supreme Court ruling on partisan gerrymandering. What would you do as president to address voting rights?
So I've put out an extensive plan on how to get more people to vote. It starts with voter security. We need to make sure not just that everybody votes, but that we don't have tampering from the Russians, from the North Koreans, from anyone else. We need to make our election system as secure as Fort Knox. And we need to make sure that every American citizen gets a chance to vote and that that vote gets counted. For me, that means getting rid of every racial voting suppression law that has been passed across this country. It means getting rid of political gerrymandering. And ultimately, it means passing my anti-corruption bill that tries to fight back against the influence of money in Washington. Our system is rigged. It's corruption, plain and simple. And it's the corruption of those with money get far more influence in Washington than those who don't have it. And we're going to have to fight back on that on a lot of different fronts.
Senator, a number of AFSCME members are corrections and law enforcement officers
Yep.
across this country. As president, how can you make their jobs safer?
I think one way we make them safer is by addressing the problem of gun violence head on. I have worked with the parents of a slain police officer in Massachusetts to fight for sensible gun safety laws. And here's the perfect example of corruption in Washington. We know some steps that would help. Universal background checks, take weapons of war off our streets, treat gun safety like the health crisis that it is. And yet, even though this is supported by overwhelming majorities of Americans, including majorities of gun owners, nothing gets done in Washington. And the reason is the influence of the NRA. They hold Washington by a stranglehold, and democracy is not functioning. We need to fight back, and that means fighting back from the White House, from Congress, and all across this nation. That's how we're going to make real difference. We're right here in Nevada, and Moms Demand Action and March for Our Lives showed that when people get organized and push hard enough, we can make a real change in the laws. This is a bet on democracy working. Thank you.
The NRA has a big influence, but so don't corporations such as
Oh, yeah.
the pharmaceutical industry and whatnot. Medicare for All would get rid of them completely. As far as Bernie Sanders' plan goes, how do you plan to deal with the pharmaceutical industry and them profiteering off of 30,000 Americans dying for preventable causes?
So, step one for me is my anti-corruption plan that would end lobbying as we know it, that would end the revolving door between the pharmaceutical industry and our government, that would reduce the influence of big corporate money on Washington. That's where we've got to start. We start there, then we can really start making a difference. We can negotiate drug prices. We can import drugs from foreign countries where they're cheaper and meet the same safety standards. I have a plan in order to put generic drugs back on the market at very low prices. It's outrageous that giant drug companies are profiteering off insulin and high blood pressure medicines and high cholesterol medicines that have been around for decades and are no longer protected by their own laws. So these are the kinds of places we could fight back. We could bring down the cost of drugs for everybody across this country who needs it. But it starts with having the courage to take the drug companies on head on. And that's what I'm going to do.
Warren, there's this weird meta debate going on about whether Barack Obama's legacy is fair game. You, when you were in the Senate, were critical of aspects of the even the staffers that they appointed to some offices in the Treasury. I'm wondering if you could weigh in on this. What elements of the Obama legacy would you like to see improved, and is criticism fair?
So look, it's a matter of public record that there were some places where President Obama and I disagreed. But I want to be clear. Following the crash of 2008, I had an idea for a consumer agency to make sure that giant banks did not make their profits by cheating people. And President Obama fought for that. When his own advisors were willing to throw it under the bus, it was President Obama who stood up and said, no, when we pass financial reform, we're going to make sure the consumer agency is a part of it. And then he asked me to come and set it up, and I spent a year in the administration setting up the consumer agency. And today, that little agency has forced giant financial institutions to return more than $12 billion directly to people they cheated. They've handled about 1.5 million complaints from people all across this country. That's what President Barack Obama did. His legacy in healthcare, his legacy on the consumer agency are a big part of what changed this country for the better, and I strongly support that and will continue to support it. Anybody else? Thank you.